The whole Halloween franchise is brought up on the idea of a young boy who snapped and murdered his older sister, but only to escape from the sanitarium in which he was locked up in, with a vengeance to kill his younger sister, Laurie Strode, or should we say Cynthia Myers. But why did Michael Myers kill his older sister, Judith Margaret Myers, on Halloween night 1978? Now we all know the story of Michael and Laurie, but do we all know the story of Michael and Judith? Let's take this way back. Judith Margaret Myers was born on November 10, 1947 in Russellville, Illinois, daughter to Donald and Edith Myers. Her younger brother Michael, Audrey Myers, was born in 1957, Judith only being 10 at the time. Cynthia Myers was born a couple of years later in 1961. The Myers family lived in a two-story home in the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois. It was the year 1961 and Judith Myers noticed a change in Michael's behaviour. Judith began to notice her brother become very rude towards her and would even go as far as to draw terrible faces on her diary. Now perhaps it was the younger sibling Cynthia who brought on this change with young Michael. Younger kids often feel neglected or hurt when there is a new sibling brought into the family. Michael may have bottled up his emotions to the point where he couldn't stand it. Or Michael was simply evil. He's like the wind, he's out there and he's gonna get you. Judith also mentioned how when Michael would hurt himself he would blame it on her, so she would get in trouble. Michael would often stare at Judith for no reason. In the year of 1963, Judith was dating a boy named Daniel Hodges. That same year, Judith and Daniel had taken a trip to nearby Russellville, and Judith's parents suggested that she bring Michael with her. Now Judith ditched Michael to have sex with Daniel, but Michael had shown up only minutes later covered in blood and holding the lifeless body of a rabbit. Now Judith was very set back by this, but she knew if she had told her parents what happened, then the parents would wonder why she let Michael out of her sight. This is where Judith noticed something really disturbed about Michael. The night it all happened. It was October 31st, 1963. Haddonfield, Illinois had no idea what was about to happen in the peaceful white house on 41 Lambkin Lane. Donald and Edith Myers had gone out for a special evening together, leaving Michael in the care of his older sister Judith, though Judith had more interesting plans entertaining her boyfriend Daniel. Michael Myers had gone trick-or-treating as most kids did at that age. This gave Judith the chance to get ready before her boyfriend arrived. The doorbell rang and outside of the door stood 8 trick-or-treaters. Judith thought it might be funny to tease them and said, "What would you do if I gave you no candy?" Well, she got a response from one of the kids wearing a clown costume saying that they would kill her. Now that costume was very familiar to Judith. She had remembered dressing her younger brother Michael in that same costume earlier that day. She told the clown that she knew it was Michael and that she would tell their parents what had happened. The clown responded by saying, "I'm not Michael Myers, I'm a clown." Now at the same time, Judith's boyfriend Danny drove up and Judith gave some candy to the kids and let him in. At around 10 PM, Michael, still dressed in the clown costume, walked around his house and silently watched through the windows as Judith and Daniel started kissing. Both Judith and Daniel decided to move it to the bedroom. Michael, noticing the light in Judith's room go out, he sneaked in through the back door of the house, grabbed a large butcher knife from the drawer and began walking towards the stairs. Having finished their illicit activities, Judith and Daniel parted ways, Daniel promising to call her the next day.
Will you call me tomorrow?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Upon his departure, Michael proceeded to walk up the stairs and headed for Judith's bedroom. He found Judith sitting in front of her vanity mirror. Judith stopped singing and called out Michael's name. It was then that Michael proceeded to stab Judith repeatedly in the chest, abdomen and torso. As Judith laid on the bedroom floor, Michael walked out of her bedroom, down the stairs, exiting the house and stood in the front lawn as his parents parked the car. Now it was this point when Donald pulled off the clown mask and said, "Michael?" His mother Edith looked as in shock for a brief moment. Donald wasted no time as he ran into the house and up the stairs to check on Judith. Edith then took the knife away from young Michael, escorted him into the house with young Cynthia following behind them. Upon finding the body of his daughter Judith, Donald screamed out to Edith to call an operator and get the police and paramedics. Edith immediately called an operator and connected her to the Haddonfield police station. She then spoke to Sheriff Ron Barstow, who told her that he would dispatch some officers and who would be there as soon as possible. Now, it was evident that young Judith had gone to shock. The police had to physically remove Donald from the bedroom and prevent his wife Edith from entering the room. After arriving at the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, the paramedics removed Judith from the ambulance and took her into the hospital. Sheriff Ron Barstow then escorted Edith, Donald and young Michael to the kitchen. The police began taking pictures of the crime scene and then they took Edith, Donald and Michael to the police station where the interrogation of the Michael Myers family begun. Young Cynthia was taken to her grandmother's house where she would stay until the interrogation was over. Meanwhile, a police officer was dispatched to Judith's boyfriend's house so that he could also be brought down to the station for questioning. The interrogation of Michael Myers went nowhere. The boy did not answer any of the questions and it was believed that he was in some sort of shock. At approximately 1 AM, Donald and Edith were informed of their daughter's death. It appears as if she was pronounced dead shortly after the arrival at the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. It was stated that the wounds were not deep enough to be inflicted by the strength required of an adult, and that they were primarily centered around Judith's abdomen, torso, with a few chest wounds, which suggested that the perpetrator was not that tall as the average adult. The coroner's report concluded that Judith died as a result of a massive blood loss. The police then had enough evidence to arrest Michael. Several police officers were dispatched to Edith's childhood home, where Michael was currently residing, and arrested him. Much to his parents' despair, he was taken to Smithsgrove Sanitarium until he appeared in court, where the judge ruled that Michael would remain at the sanitarium until the age of 21, when he would then be tried as an adult in the murder of his older sister Judith. Both Edith and Don Myers cried when Michael was escorted out of the courtroom. Judith's friends, boyfriend, peers and former high school staff paid their respects by attending her wake on November 2nd, 1963. On November 3rd, 1963, she was buried at the Mount Sinclair Cemetery. Her parents, grandmother and other relatives were in attendance, along with her closest friends and former boyfriend Daniel. Of course, young Michael was prohibited from attending. After Judith's death and Michael's institutionalization, Edith suffered from a major depression and Don began drinking excessively. They eventually returned to their home and had to deal with the horrible task of cleaning up the mess in Judith's bedroom. They also sorted through Judith's personal belongings. Only a few very sentimental items were kept, some of which were a few diaries that her parents stumbled upon. In time, they began to read her diaries and learned that she began keeping a diary when Michael's psychological problems became apparent. In them, she detailed Michael's strange behaviour towards her and her disappointment of not having a healthy sibling relationship with her brother. She wrote about her frustrations and concerns for herself and for that of her families. She also stressed that she thought the parents were not really taking her concerns seriously. Her parents also noticed the pictures of horrible faces that were drawn in their diaries, as well as some pages that were missing. They could tell that the pictures were drawn by Michael. Her last diary entry was dated October 31st, 1963, which was not complete as Judith had written, "I'll continue later tonight after Dawn has left." Despite what Michael had done, his parents would visit him faithfully at Smithsgrove Sanitarium. They still loved him and were desperate for a cure. They didn't want to accept the fact that Michael was suffering from a mental illness and remained in a state of denial. One day, on the way to Smithsgrove Sanitarium, Donald lost control of the car. He and Edith both died in a fatal car accident. The autopsy revealed that Dawn had been driving under the influence of alcohol. However, their young daughter Cynthia managed to survive the car accident, which was thought to be a miracle. The young child was placed up for adoption and later adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Strode, who then changed her name to Laurie Strode. Judith and her murder played a significant role in Michael's future murder sprees. When Michael returned to Haddonfield back in 1978, 15 years after murdering his sister, he took up residence in his vacant childhood home and would walk into Judith's bedroom to reminisce about her murder. He also stole her gravestone from Mount Sinclair Cemetery, confirming his psychiatrist's fear that Michael had indeed come home. However, later on Halloween night 1978, Michael displayed Annie Brackett's body under said headstone after murdering her. The same night, Michael stabbed the knife through a crayon drawing of a family, although this could have been either in a reference to Judith's death or his wish to kill his other sister, Laurie Strode. Judith's headstone was eventually returned to her grave. It's unclear what set Michael off, a question I'm sure all fans will never receive an actual answer to. I found it very interesting to read more about this murder of Judith Myers. As we all know, it has been rumoured that Laurie Strode isn't going to be related to Michael Myers in the upcoming film, so it's very interesting to see what gave him the drive to attack Laurie on Halloween night in 1978. If you have anything you'd like to add to the topic, please comment below. I'd love to engage in the conversation about this, and thank you so much for watching guys, take care.